Hi, on today's episode I'm going to talk about this GKN Saxon, our own vehicle here in the workshop today. I'm going to talk about what we've done up to this point and how we're going to move forward with this project and hopefully get a few videos out to you guys. I'm Ross and welcome to CombatCars. When I bought the vehicle, originally I was buying two vehicles. One was missing what the other one had got, and I reckon that between the two I would have had about 95% of a vehicle. Unfortunately, the second Saxon deal fell through. I didn't want to renege on the first deal, so I went ahead and bought it. Not really sure what I was going to do with it without the other vehicle. The linchpin of this vehicle is the transfer box. It seems to be integral to just Saxon. If I couldn't find a transfer box, the whole thing was dead in the water. Luckily, we found a guy who had a reconditioned transfer box. We bought the box, fitted it into the vehicle. The rest, as I say, is history. We're moving forward. So this is the engine bay. We believe early on in this particular vehicle's life, it was involved in a fairly severe road traffic accident. The two front engine mountings here and here had been completely severed. The rubber parts were severed. It suggests that the engine shunted forward. Fan was missing, radiator was missing. They were probably destroyed in the accident. We were lucky enough though that the rest of the interior was more or less complete. As you can see, we stripped that all out and we've repainted this whole area ready for those pipes and things to go back in. So the pipes will all fit in here underneath the engine, and then the engine will sit on top there. Earlier we looked at the engine bay, which is completely bare. These are some of the parts, pipes and fittings and fixtures that have come out of that area. So all these have to be cleaned, some of them painted and some replaced, some repaired, and all fitted back into the engine bay prior to the engine going in. This is the Saxon's original engine, the Bedford 500. It was missing quite a few parts when we got it. I stripped it down a good bit further to see what condition it was in. It seized. We were going to need to bore it out, probably fit new pistons, new rings, and I would imagine the crankshaft is going to need to be ground as well. I did get a reconditioned head for it. I also picked up a donor engine that was part of a sprinkler system. I'll be able to salvage lots of external parts for this engine here. So the front axle was in very bad condition when we got it. The vehicle had been used as a recovery vehicle, so obviously they had straps and ropes around these axles and pulled it forward. These bolts were all bent. The bolt down the centre of the spring was sheared. The axle itself was full of sand. The diff was in very bad condition and unusable. The right hub is also in very bad condition. We can't get that apart. The left one wasn't too bad. It had oil in it still, and we managed to get that one apart. You can see here we have some of the parts all ready to go. So we have the half shaft here. We have some new seals that we got and a new bearing to go into this area here. This shaft, the stub axle has to be machined and sleeved so that the seal will make a nice seal around the edge of that. And we can see here we have some of the parts here to build this steering knuckle area. Before we move on then to the hub itself and the brakes. So the transfer box, this was the go no go as far as doing the actual restoration was concerned. It's a common misconception that all the parts of the Saxon were off the shelf. Some of them were. I could find no reference to this particular transfer box, so we were looking for a part specific to this vehicle, and I was lucky enough to find one. I paid a hefty price for it. So the transfer box was there. We were missing some of the carrier racks for it as well. So this side here was completely manufactured as a duplicate of this side. The engine mountings or the gearbox mountings here were missing. So the fuel tank was another part that was missing. Posted photographs of this area being restored on Facebook. And a kind gentleman got in touch and said, I think I have a fuel tank that will suit your vehicle. And it turned out to be a Saxon fuel tank. It was in very good condition inside, so it just needed to be cleaned, painted, and now I have it fitting in there. So we're at the rear of the vehicle here. As you can see, we've stripped it all back, prepping it for paint, ready for needle gun and a bit of paint. The original rear axle was in pretty reasonable condition. The front diff was unusable, so we were able to take the diff out of the rear axle and put it into the front and reset that up. There's photographs of that build on the Facebook page. We were only able to do that because we sourced a replacement rear axle for here, which was a reconditioned unit. All we have to do in order to fit that then is to get these springs reconditioned, get them back up on the vehicle, get the axle under it, hopefully get her sitting back on her own feet in pretty short order. So one of the areas that were damaged was the back of this vehicle. This rear armour plate here had been bent inwards, probably where another Saxon had driven into the back. Now I attempted to straighten this cold using a ram, and as you can see here, all I'd done really was break the weld. Didn't straighten it properly, there's still a kink in it. I'm not sure at this stage how to proceed. Maybe cut this section out and weld in a new plate. And if you have any ideas, feel free to mention them in the comments below. So the side access door was completely missing from this project. The original owner did have this piece of steel which came with the vehicle when we purchased it, but it was blank. It had to be completely fabricated from scratch using drawings and measurements that people were kind enough to give me. We just finished welding that up. There's extensive photographs of that construction on our Facebook page if you want to look at that. And we just fitted that there last week into place, and I was delighted to see that it fitted perfectly. It does what it's supposed to do. It opens and closes as you'd expect. So I'm very happy with that.
So that's all we have time for on this episode. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.